big win for Arsenal, 2-0 away from home at St James's Park. And it was a brilliant affair, a wonderful game, nail-biting, exhilarating, full of joy, ecstasy, heart rate, and sorrow. It was absolutely a brilliant display of Premier League football. But Arsenal walk away with the much-valued 3 points, keeping their title hopes alive. Newcastle, although they helped put on that absolute thriller, have now opened that door for Man United going third potentially. Liverpool now will feel they have even more hope of a top 4 finish, with Newcastle kind of being dragged back into this again. But what a game. What a game. And it's so hard to break everything down. The opening 10 minutes from Newcastle United was splendid. Their press, the crowd, the 12th man behind them. You were looking at Arsenal. Conceded 2 goals away at Anfield. Conceded 2 at West Ham. 4 at Manchester City. They had to respond against Chelsea in the week, and they did. How are they going to handle the pressure? The pressure, the noise, the cauldron of anxiety, which is St James's Park. And in the opening 10 minutes, it looked worrying from an Arsenal point of view. And then the penalty was the post hit early on, and then a penalty given, which was rightfully overturned by VAR because the ball struck Kivior on the leg first and then up onto his arm, meaning it should not be a handball. Microscopic examination from VAR took the penalty away from Newcastle correctly, and then Arsenal started to play. They scored a sensational goal from Martin Odegaard. Absolutely brilliant. And from that point, Arsenal went to another level. There was some fear remaining in this, though, because Newcastle were dangerous on the counter with a brilliant save from Ramsdale from a wonderful move where Joe Willock was put into a brilliant position. But then chances for Martinelli, Saka, and Odegaard at the death of the first half were inexplicably missed by Arsenal. And you're sitting there and thinking, could history repeat itself again? Could the title race be completely and utterly over? The second half begins very much as the first half did. Newcastle on fire, the passing, the movement, the shape of their team, spellbinding. The post hit again. Ramsdale pulling off a Gordon Banks-esque save from a point-blank header. You have a Xhaka block that stops a certain goal from going in. And then after all the chances that West Ham had, including Martinelli hitting the crossbar, a good bit of skill, puts his laces through it across the 6-yard box, it deflects and goes in. And you think to yourself, how have all the chances that have been missed, saved, gone wide, inexplicably not gone in the back of the net have happened, and the own goal is what makes it 2-0. And from that point, Arsenal did what they have not been able to do in recent games away from home, West Ham, Liverpool, etc. They shut up shop. They absolutely nullified Newcastle United in a big way. They took the game away from them. They took their life away from them, life in terms of the game. And from that point of view, it was a brilliant game from Arsenal. I don't think it can be denied. It was a brilliant performance from Arsenal Football Club. But where did this brilliance come from? That's the big question for me. Firstly, it came too late, but that's hindsight talking. Kivior. If he started all those games instead of Rob Holding, maybe Arsenal are still on top of the Premier League right now. Genuinely mean that. I don't mean it in a sensationalist way. I don't mean it as a way of digging Arteta out. It's a mistake. He'll learn from it. 2 games on the bounce. Everybody said you can't count Chelsea because Chelsea are an average team. The way he performed today at one of the hardest grounds in the Premier League this season to go to was nothing short of brilliant. Then you've got Jorginho. Another player that I feel that has been underutilized by Mikel Arteta over that period of games. This guy controlled everything in terms of winning possession back, distribution, keeping the team ticking and flowing. Everything that is brilliant about Jorginho was on display today. This is what we saw for the 12 months that led to him coming third in the Ballon d'Or rankings. He did come third in the Ballon d'Or. I'm not making it up. He came third in some major world event. Maybe it was the FIFA Best Award, something like that. 10 out of 10 performance from him. On the ball, technically better than Thomas Partey. Doesn't have the physicality. There's no doubt about that. But intelligence is a brilliant. He's intelligent. He's one of the most intelligent midfielders in the Premier League. His ability to read the game. Michael Carrick was like that. Patrick Vieira was like that as an example. Some players, Yaya Toure, they have the intelligence and the physicality. That's an absolute problem. But Jorginho today, unleashing his absolute best performance. And then on top of that, you had Odegaard. Odegaard's performance today is one of the best individual displays from Arsenal in probably the last decade. Because although some people will say there was no pressure on today, the title's over, one, this Arsenal team can't let City off the hook that easy. They've got to keep them honest. Two, they had to respond. They had to respond after that really poor run of form that saw them fall off the top of the league. And they've responded in a brilliant fashion. 5 goals in 2 games, a clean sheet away at Newcastle United today, and some brilliant individual displays. Ramsdale also needs to be shouted out as well because he, again, some of the saves from him today were absolutely impeccable. You can't get away from that in any way, any shape, or any form. Just absolutely brilliant. So those standout individual performances, the team as a whole, very, very good. Xhaka combative in the middle, some good moments from him. But yes, and Martinelli didn't take his chances, but persevered, and got the ball in the back of the net for that second goal. When it comes to the notes I was taking, though, the only kind of smudge I would say on the ledger really for Arsenal, and this is something for the panel when they come out later, and I want to get your opinions on this now. Just like Thomas Partey's been taken out of the team, Holding's been taken out of the team. Maybe Arsenal need, and look, they're coming towards the end of the season. Maybe they don't think they're going to win the league, and this isn't so important. But right now, Zinchenko defensively is a major issue for them. It felt like the majority of the attacks came down Arsenal's left. Consistently was getting stripped. And I've seen that so much in the last 4 or 5 games. Maybe it's just getting into his head. Maybe there needs to be a little respite for him. Take him out the firing lineup for a little while. It's probably the only element of the game that would have been a worry for Arsenal fans. He's still looking suspect in that left back, position. But outside of that, this was sensational from Arsenal. And as I said at the top, Man United will be going, right, let's go and get the job done today against West Ham. Hard game, by the way. You can't be writing West Ham off at the London Stadium. Liverpool fans tonight, though, they will be licking their lips. As you can see on the screen in front of me, yes, they're 3 points behind Newcastle. Yes, Newcastle have a game in hand, but nothing's a given. Most people were predicting yesterday in our comment section, Arsenal losing. You've seen Alan Shearer laughing at Ian Wright before the game. Don't cry today, Wrighty. He's the one now crying, stating it was a penalty because he couldn't see it hit the guy's leg. The guy's shorts were they just moved. Mysteriously, there must have been a ghost. Patrick Swayze was out there moving his shorts, bruv. One of them ones. It's not looking good, bruv. But at the end of the day, from my point of view, enjoyed the game. From a neutral perspective, I enjoyed it. I wanted an Arsenal win because I can't. Look, United are sketchy at the minute. We need Newcastle dragged into this top 4 race with us because 3 teams fighting over 2 places is better odds than 2 teams fighting over 1 place. You know, you've got a 60% chance versus a 50% chance. The extra 10%, trust me, boys, you could grow if every part of your life could grow by 10%, you'd be a lucky, lucky person. That's all I'm going to say. Whether it's your bank balance, your shoe size, your height, other sizes, 10% is a lot. So I want that extra 10% chance. Let's go to some of your super chats here. This is my prediction, not looking more likely now. Chelsea going to beat City, which makes Arsenal go in pole position for the league. Listen, I can't see Chelsea beating City myself right now. But Jay, you could end up being right, my friend. Don't usually get to catch you live as I'm in California. But love you, Terry. Extremely happy to hear of your healthy and up the Gunners well wishes. Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate that, and you tuning in all the way from sunny California. Jet, thank you for the super chat. No comment from you, but thank you. Anthony's back again. It says, also, we again see how superior Tierney is defensively. This is the thing, right? Genuinely. Look at Trent at Liverpool. Now he's being used in midfield and they're covering his defensive position with somebody else. They look a different team. They're not perfect because they've got other holes. If you're gonna have Zinchenko in your team, somebody's got to cover him defensively. He can't be left to do one-on-one defending. He just isn't. He's a number 10. He's a number 10. He's a playmaker being asked to do something defensive. Of course, there's going to be problems at time. And I think because it's so highlighted now, teams are going for the jugular. Did the ref forget his yellow cards in his car? Look, I don't understand how Dan Burn never gets sent off. He got booked today, but should have been booked much earlier on in the game. That guy, but you know what it is? It's about likability. Likability is a real thing. It's a real thing in the world. And Dan Burn is cool. He dances funny. He's a bit awkward looking. He's a nice guy, probably. I bet he knows all the referees' wives' names, their kids' names. And I love a bit of Dan Burn. I can't believe he weren't booked earlier. Jorginho and Kivior were immense. Absolutely AMT. They were just brilliant. And look, if you bring this sort of stuff up, people think, oh, you're just trying to dig out our manager. It's not about that. Proper fans will question things and go, right, what can we do different in the future? Hindsight's a lucrative commodity, something I've said for many, many years. And hindsight dictates that if these two had started maybe some games, maybe away against West Ham and things like this, maybe, just maybe, the lie of the land would be different. However, we don't know that. But what we do know is that they were very, very good indeed. Very, very good indeed today. And of course, Kivior, brilliant against Chelsea the other day as well. Debbie's here with us and says, I know Arsenal were going to win. I just think Newcastle was a better team, but a win is a win. Why do you feel like Arsenal was about to bottle the next one? Why do you? I don't know why you feel like that, Debs. I wouldn't say Newcastle were better. I think it was a very even game. I haven't looked at the stats. I guarantee you there's no more than 3 or 4, 5% in possession. I guarantee each team probably had about the same amount of shots. It was a very even game. The difference today was better quality on the field for Arsenal. They have overall better quality players was the difference as far as I'm concerned. Got to talk about Ramsdale. What a performance. I mentioned him already, but yes, you're right. Sensational save from that point, from that point blank header. There was a great save from Willock in the first half as well. And overall, a very dominant display from him at the back and in between the sticks today. Not an Arsenal fan, but great performance by Arsenal, Rambo and White. Good news for England. Yeah, listen, I haven't even mentioned White. Solid as hell today. You're absolutely spot on there, Liam. Anyone that ever said Gibraltar guard, apologize. I got a lot to say to Lee Gunner on Tuesday. Make sure you're all tuning in to Straight Facts, 3:30 Tuesday afternoon. Got a lot of big questions for him and a lot of receipts coming. But it'll be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Prime here says, big win for you guys. Keep the pressure on City. Stay right on their heels just in case they slip up. Happy for you, though, kid. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think every Man United fan should feel happy with this result today. It's a good one for us. I know you're a United fan. That's why I'm personally happy about it as well. The gunshot, the magpie, bang, bang, is what's been said there. That really caught me off guard, that super chat. Would we have won this game if City had dropped points and we were under heavy pressure to win? I'm not convinced. No pressure, no problem. But I think there was pressure. You look at the way Newcastle started. There was heavy, intense pressure. It was a very anxious environment to be in. And Arsenal came through it. And Arsenal can't slip up. Arsenal need to end this season, even if they come second, playing well. And the reason I say this is because we've got into this habit as football fans of treating seasons as completely exclusive of one another. And of course, the achievements each season are mutually exclusive. But your progression and trajectory intertwine with one another, which is why some people would look at Arsenal's season. If they end up finishing 1 point in the end behind Man City, you go on to win a treble, being 1 point behind them with that growth going into a summer and buying players, it isn't a perfect season, but it's not a disastrous one because you know where you're going. How do I know this? My club was like that for 25 years of my life. We didn't win it every year, but I never went into the summer dreading it and fuming and angry because I knew we would come again. And maybe that's just kind of missing now from football. And maybe it needs to come back. Too little, too late. Hindsight is always 2020. Gorgeous away performance. Felt like war, but we need to do it next season when the pressure is on. Yeah, listen, I think you're right about doing it under pressure. It remains to be seen whether Arsenal can do it, but I think you're absolutely right in terms of what you want to see there from your team. Right, I'm going to bring my panel out now, people that have their say. Sorry, Martin O'Malley here says, Captain Odegaard tied for the most non-penalty goals by a midfielder in Premier League history. Also, Isak is a baller. Come on, you gooners. Did Lampard only ever score? Okay, you're taking away Lampard's penalties, I assume, when you're doing that. I hear you. I don't do the non-penalty goal thing. I include goals just because goals are goals. You're the best penalty taker in your team. That's a tick next to your name, right? It's an attribute you're really good at. You know, if Odegaard was bad at crossing the ball, that would make him a worse player, right? So you include it because it's what he's good at. But yeah, brilliant season from Odegaard. There's no doubt about it. Did you Newcastle complaining about time wasting? Yeah, it is what it is. It's the game. It's the game. Madrid better win their game or they'll never hear the end of it. I don't think Madrid care about Premier League issues. I don't think they care about any of it. Absolutely any of it. And watch all your content, brother. Big Gooner from Brooklyn, NYC. Love your video yesterday about the mental health. We are all worried for you. Listen, I appreciate that. As I say, like I'm doing a lot better now that I know what was wrong with me and what they need to fix it. I've had a lot of people asking me if it's to do with a certain vaccination I may have had. No, it literally isn't anything to do with that whatsoever. I know like a lot of people want to connect things to that, but it really isn't. It is to do with something with my stomach, but it's something completely treatable, non-fatal. I'll be good. I'll be good. Like it really is. All the chest pains I was suffering were because of the stomach issue. And when I get a bit gassy, it sits in my chest and I never knew. And it sits there and there's a lot of pressure. So it's nothing to do with, getting an inoculation. So people just relax on that one. I said a lot of people go, oh, is it because of that? No, nothing at all. Like nothing. So chill on that one. Right, panel time now, people. Hit the like and the share button. Let's do this. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you are good. Sorry, I've just muted you, by the way, Stevie. You got something loud in your background. Could you do us a favor as well, Stephen? We get a few complaints from people about the strobe lights because some people watching are epileptic. You could turn them off for us. That'd be amazing, brother. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Hope everybody is well. Big win. Big win for you, Egal. An important win. Talk to me, bro.
What's going on, everybody? How's everyone doing on this wonderful Sunday evening? Honestly, I'm happy the team performed the way they performed. I'm happy they showed up and they delivered that type of performance, which was extremely physical, extremely under the cosh a lot of times, and they showed the character and the will-how to continue to push through the game, even though it wasn't going the way that we wanted to go at certain times. We were under pressure early, and Ramsdale, I feel like he gets over-criticized a lot, guys. He showed in that first half why he's our keeper, and what he was doing today was fantastic. Then also, I got to give credit to a lot of the attackers because they might not have been finishing their chances, but their work rate to get back defensively was helping us a lot, like Martinelli in the opening second. Then Martin Odegaard breaks the duck, gets us the goal, much needed goal that we needed. Immediately after a decision that was rightly overturned, that wasn't a handball, it hit his thigh. And then we went from there, strength to strength in the second half, where I feel like we kept battling with them. We had a shaky start to the first half, and then we weathered the storm, got the much-needed goal from a counterattack, and Fabian Schär tapped it in. the performance of the team, Jorginho, what a performance from him, man of the match today. And Mikel Arteta was rewarded by playing players on merit and not playing players that based on the fact that you think Partey might be better for this game. One thing I do think that he should do, though, going forward is take out Zinchenko and play Kieran Tierney. I think Kieran Tierney showed today in that second half why he deserves to play and why he should be given more opportunities going forward. I think every Arsenal fan should be happy. I don't think that the title race is the thought process that they're thinking about right now. I just think it's continue to get the wins back and going and get the good mood around the club, because I feel like everyone has just been so down over the last couple of days. It's just good to get a win under our belt. It's good to get a clean sheet under our belt, and it's good to get it all happening away from home against one of the most informed teams in the league. Honestly, very proud as a Gooner today, and everyone should be. Don't let anybody bring you down.
You absolutely should be. I mean, that opening 10 minutes, Egal, was exhilarating. It looked like it could be peak for Arsenal. They were cutting through you. They hit the post. They had the penalty decision to kind of, for Arsenal to work through that, and then for large parts of that second half, then to become the better team. No one cuts this Newcastle team open as regularly as you were doing. It really was a sort of a vintage performance from Arsenal, looking at this season in isolation.
I think we were a little bit lucky, not to take away from the win and the clean sheet, because let's be honest, it was a crossbar challenge at one point. Both teams were hitting the bar. Both teams were hitting the side of the net. It was just absolutely crazy how Newcastle weren't scoring. But I also have to give it credit to our players, because Granit Xhaka put his body on the line. Martinelli put his body on the line. Ramsdale, the awareness to get that header that was so close to him and to get an arm on it. Like, you need a little luck sometimes, but also you can see the work rate and the effort that they put in. Why wasn't this shown sooner? I don't know. But KVR, good job from him. And play players on merit. If the player is not playing well, even if they're your best player in your team, you cannot continue to play them. Sometimes you need to take the player who's working the hardest and is putting their life on the line on there before the player that you think is the better player. That's just me.
I hear you on that. I mean, from your point of view, Souls, I know you've been, after the Chelsea game, you were kind of annoyed and angry that you hadn't done this sooner. But are you feeling a bit more proud of the boys today? Is that performance kind of pepped up your spirits?
No, you're on mute.
I said it before the game as well. I'm going to spoil this game and we're going to beat Newcastle. It was written in the script we're going to do this. And I think we're going to go on to beat Brighton as well. And the thing that I'm more proud of, I hate this narrative that there's no pressure on Arsenal, because let's be real, if we now start losing games and dropping points, people are going to say we've completely collapsed. But this team is showing the fight to go, do you know what? We're going to take it to Man City. We're not going to make this easy. And it was quite nice to even hit, like, from the commentary side as well, from ex-players and stuff, to hear that Man City players in this moment won't be sat at home comfortable. They would have thought, okay, there's going to be a cushion for us to go into Goodison Park at Everton and play our game and potentially take an even bigger leap into the title race. But now they're going to have to go to Everton fully focused on firstly beating Real Madrid, then going to play Everton, a ground where they have struggled in the past, controversy and everything, even last season when the handball and Rodri, everything like that happened as well, where they could have lost that game and potentially the league title. So this is what we need to be doing. And in terms of Zinchenko, I know Zinchenko gets a lot of hate from the Arsenal fans at the moment due to his defensive display. But if Jurgen Klopp now dropped Trent because he couldn't defend, a lot of what we're seeing now wouldn't be happening. The Martin Odegaard goal doesn't happen without Zinchenko. So there's a balance to this argument. As much as he can't defend, he's vital to what we do. And if we drop him against Brighton, we'll lose that game. And the reason why I say that is the pure control that comes into this team comes from an element of what Zinchenko does. Now, what we need to do is find a way to mitigate the deficiencies that Zinchenko brings to the team. That's what Klopp has now found. He inverted Trent, and what Henderson used to do when he had the legs to do it was cover for Trent. What we need to do is find a way where Xhaka or someone can cover for Zinchenko when he is doing that role. That's what we need to do. It's not about dropping him playing Tierney, because if we're going to play players on merit, let's be real. Why are we not talking about Saka? I don't want to bash any of these players, but why is Saka's name not being used? Why is it only Zinchenko? No one seems to want to talk about every single player. Now, that's the reason why I call that point out in the narrative that's being spun. But I'll be honest with you. I was against the Jorginho signing, but my God, is that guy a player? I can now see why this guy was a third choice, or even why Chelsea fans were saying this guy deserves to win the Ballon d'Or. What he has done in the past sort of 2 games that he's come in is exactly what I wanted him to do. And what we expect Partey to do, control games, dictate the tempo, be the man that comes on the ball and basically transform this team. And also Kiwior, do you know what? Fair play, because his debut was horrible. A lot of the things he was doing, he was very rash. Even when he came on, I can't remember what game he came on, but he was very rash and gave up a goal. The 2 games that he's come, I'm proud of him. And I think the mentality of the players that we bring in, regardless of how much backlash or people potentially even being against the signing, the pressure was immense because we signed him for 20 million. People were questioning it. And he comes in and against Newcastle, on form, on fire, beating teams 6-0, 5-0, absolutely whitewashing teams recently, and they couldn't score a goal. I think got to be proud and happy of him.
Let me just say this. I'm not saying I don't rate Zinchenko. I'm not saying I want him out of the team forever or anything like that. I'm just saying we've seen it with Rob Holding. He was protecting poor performances. We don't want the manager protecting poor performances. And if Zinchenko is having a poor game, as he was at times today, he realized to take him off. And if he's going to take him off, maybe give Kieran Tierney some opportunity to play. Because I feel like
the same energy not being given to Saka. That's my problem.
You've been on stream with me.
Be honest. Zinchenko still does stuff.
1 second.
Saka's done nothing.
You've been on streams with me. Go on my YouTube channel, go on my TikTok, go on my Twitter. Anywhere you go, you see that I was calling for Trossard to start ahead of Saka in this game.
No,
and
I'm
a lot of people were
generally
questioning
the energy is more on Zinchenko, even though Zinchenko's
I understand that some of the Arsenal fan base won't mention it and won't call out Saka. But to be fair, for me, I've been saying it for weeks now. Play players on merit. And it's not a thing where I have been saying, oh, don't play Saka, bench Saka. Ask any of these guys. They've been on streams with me. Ask Terry. I said it the last game. Eventually, we're going to have to rotate players when they're playing well. And you're right. Saka has not been playing well. He's had poor performances since the international break. I could say maybe 3 really good games and the rest of them shaky. So we have the options. Mikel Arteta, utilize your options. And he knows better than me at the end of the day. But all I'm saying is, as fans, we can see certain players deserve to play and certain players don't deserve to play.
I think you're mistaken, Egal. I think you're mistaken. I think you bought Zinchenko knowing that he's suspect defensively and great playing in the midfield and going forward. And he's essential to most of your build-up play. It's on the manager to fix that issue, like what Pep Guardiola did with Cancelo. Cancelo is terrible defensively from his Valencia days, but he is like Pep Guardiola fixed that by having the other right back tucking inside and playing 3 in the back. So why not Arteta doing this all the time? Because there's a massive difference going forward between Tierney and Zinchenko. And their whole plan is for people to hold the ball and keep passing it until you get to the winger. And Zinchenko is crucial to this. And you're asking your manager to drop Zinchenko, and instead of asking your manager to fix the problem, utilizing one of your great players on the ball. I don't get this.
Let me tell you why Egal is saying that, though, because I do agree with Egal. And this is actually the point where I came on today. I only have like a minute because I got to go watch the West Ham game. So just give me a minute. The reason I agree with Egal is because as much as you're right, Mo, you're talking right now about the last 5, 6, 7 games of the season where they start talking about Zinchenko being dropped or not because of his mistakes. If you remember today, I think at the start of the second half, there was a chance where he got dropped on the left side. They crossed it. Isak hit the post. They got the rebound. He fouled the guy. And then from that free kick, they crossed it, and Ramsdale had to pull off a great save. So that's 2 quick mistakes that could have led to a goal. Now, the reason Egal is saying that, which I agree with, is because it's too late in the season to start figuring out a system where how can I get the best out of Zinchenko while also covering for his defensive deficiencies. I feel like that's something you can work on in the summer.
Okay,
Man United as an example, we have to just give me a second, bro. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. Just 1 second, bro. Just 1 second, and then you can respond. Us, for an example, in Man United, we kind of have Casemiro who does that role, where a lot of times where we have, because our fullbacks have a lot of defensive deficiencies, especially like Dalot and Malacia when they play, we usually have Casemiro who knows how to drop as a third center back or something like that to help out with these things. These things I feel like you can work on in the summer. I don't think this is the time to be doing that. What I want to give props to Arteta for this game, because I gave him slander a few games ago. I forgot which one it was, and I was telling you guys maybe you're going to need a bigger manager. Today, he proved to me that he could actually do these things, but this is what I've been wanting to see from him. I wanted him to make big decisions where, like, I'm dropping Partey and I'm going to put on Jorginho. I'm going to drop, well, he didn't drop Saliba, but you don't have Saliba. I'm going to put in, I don't know how to say his name, the guy, the new center back that you guys have, Kivior, and he's a lefty, but you put him on the right. Usually he was putting Holden because he wanted a right-footed center back. He made these uncomfortable decisions just specifically for certain games, and this is what big managers do, and this is what I wanted to see from him. So as much as I criticize him for him, so no one thinks I have an Arsenal agenda or Arteta agenda, this is the reaction I wanted to see from him, because to me, this win today was much bigger than the win that you had against Chelsea, because this game was much more uncomfortable. You guys didn't dominate possession as you usually do. Terry, you were mentioning that in the pregame. You were like, I'm not sure what was the stats. It was probably slight difference. They actually had 46% possession to Newcastle's 54. So it's actually more than you thought it would be. I think Arsenal, if I'm correct, they averaged 60% possession this season. So that's a huge drop off. That's like 14%. You won, but you're outside of your regular element. And this is what big managers do in these big stages. So that's the thing that I wanted to say today about Arteta, and props to him.
And big up. I just want to say, where's everyone that was calling Arsenal soft today? Were we soft today? Like, people always call us soft. They always say Arsenal soft. We have this soft underbelly. We always play weak. We always are weak. Whenever we go up against teams that are physical, we don't go up for the battle. That didn't look like a team today that wasn't trying to raise their levels and go up for the battle. We
look soft.
So
we look soft.
If you guys are going to talk about softies, if you guys are going to be talking about people who are looking like marshmallows, that's not us.
It's us. That's us, Egal. We were the softies today.
You think you were soft today?
Huh?
In what way were you soft?
We were soft because we didn't take our chances. We also didn't convert off the opening few minutes of both halves, where the momentum, we should have got something from it. I know Jacob Murphy's unlucky at the post, whatever, but I'm pissed off. I'm very pissed off because, you know what? I did a lot of chatting this week. I was pretty confident. And you know what? That's what happens. That is what happens. Terry, you talk about this all the time about the football gods and stuff. But I got some chest, and you know what? I got humbled, bro. It happens. And you know what? I'm just pissed off because they actually gave me something to feel confident about. I was on Egal's channel. We were talking about it, and I was feeling confident. So you know what, bro? And you know what the other thing is, too? Before anyone in the comments calls me ungrateful for this season, no. Stop that. Eddie Howe said drawing is failure. I'm going by the manager's standards, my friends. I'm going by the manager's standards. And I'm noticing a worrying trend in certain games. We have the momentum to start the game. We don't score. All of a sudden, like today, Odegaard, boom, goal. And then I said, I was on a watch along with one of my buddies, and I said, if we don't score in the next 5 minutes, it's a 2-0 Arsenal win. What happens? We don't score, 2-0 Arsenal win. Just like the Liverpool game, if you guys remember that at St. James's Park. We went down early in that game, and I said, oh, damn, if we don't score soon, this is cooked.
Yeah.
And then it went on to be 2-0.
Yeah, let me get something out of my comments. I was writing some comments and notes in the game, and I said that Arteta finally this game changed a little bit the way they go forward. I saw Saka and I saw Martinelli going through the middle to open up completely the defense of Newcastle, and it paid off at the end because the defenders didn't know where to go. It created isolation. Yes, they didn't take their chances, but it kept the defenders on their toes, to be honest. I really didn't think that Arteta had it in him to change the way you play, but he completely did. During the game, before the game, and even after you go 1-0 up and 2-0 up, props to this guy. He changed a lot of things today, not lineups and stuff, just the way Arsenal play. And this is the sign that this guy can develop and improve. And I think this is what I was waiting for, to say that, yes, I can say that Arsenal next year can go to the next level, because we were questioning, can he change things?
I think you're right in the terms of the way he played in those opening 10, 15 minutes against City was crazy. You don't do that at the Etihad. What he did today is what he should have done there, been a bit more compact, a bit more resolute, harder to break down counter. But I think that decision, the Kivior decision, he hasn't made the same mistake. As far as I'm aware, Arsenal fans may educate me on this. What he did against Man United, was gone down and then gone hell for leather and left the back line exposed, where you lost against us earlier on in the season. He has learned from a lot of their mistakes, which is why I think it's wrong of some Arsenal fans to go, right, we've bottled this, therefore he's got to go. He deserves at the very least one more year. And he learns from those mistakes and the team become better next year. You're in this title race again. There's no doubt. Dawes, from your point of view as a Gooner, I know we spoke about a lot of stuff today. I wanted to ask you specifically about the performances of Jorginho, Kiwior. Do these look like real players that can help mold you into title contenders again next year?
Yeah, definitely. I just want to say one thing before that question, Terry. I don't understand. After we've beaten Newcastle have lost one game all season, and we're debating of this person should get dropped, that person should get dropped. Defensively, we're weak. So many questions. Why are we not enjoying the moment? Why are we not enjoying that we've gone on a good run and we might still have a chance of winning the title? Instead of trying to criticize the players, Zinchenko, we've always knew from day one he was defensively weak. But what he offers going forward, Tierney does not offer anything. I think when it comes to Zinchenko, when he goes to midfield, we've all seen Tierney going in midfield. He's not on the same level as Zinchenko. The way we control the game, like the way we controlled against Newcastle, Tierney will not be able to do that. There's a reason why Arteta puts Tierney on when we've got a decent lead, because it's defensively stable. And going back to Mikel Arteta, we're talking about Arteta not getting it right. He's not the right man just before this game. And then after one game, give him one more season, he's learning from his mistakes. I don't understand that. Because after one game, he goes from not being the right guy, that United fan, I don't know his name, he's completely did a 180. He went from Arteta's not the right guy, you need to buy it, you need to get Ancelotti, to now saying give him one more season.
How about let's just talk about the game?
So let's, I think you're hyper focusing on what's being said. You listen to my opening 10-15 minutes. It was 95.
Not you, Terry. I'm not talking about you, Terry.
I'm going to give you an example. Like, this is what I mean by sometimes listen to what people are saying rather than one little point. I pointed out maybe your concern for the Arsenal fans is the Zinchenko situation, but overall it's positive. What he turned around and said, he was talking about today's game, and it proved something to him that he hasn't seen in Arteta, that he can make a really big decision or a change to a system. He was talking about today's game, but it just changed something in his mind about your manager. That for me is a positive. That isn't a negative. That isn't delusional. That's going, I've seen something that I didn't know existed. And Arteta's going to get that more than Pep. He's going to get it more than Klopp, because your manager's 3.5 years old as a manager. So he's learning as he goes along. I don't think it's people overly focusing on negatives. I think they're going, I saw this positive today, and I think it can fix this negative to stop you winning the league this year. But I get where you're coming from. In terms of the game overall, how happy are you with it today? And do you feel like City will be feeling a lot of pressure tonight?
I was always confident in this team, the Arsenal team stepping up. Everyone's writing us off. Everyone said that we had no chance of going to Newcastle, beating them. But winning now puts under pressure. I said from minute one, if it's not mathematically over to win the league, there's always a chance. Man City have won 10 games in a row. They've got 4 games left, and they've got 4 tough games. So they've got a Champions League match between the Everton game, Real Madrid, and St. James's Park, Goodison Park, Sean Dyche. Anything can happen. And if they don't win that game, if they get a draw that game, they have to win their last 3 games, because if they somehow lose one of those 3 games, the title is ours. So this game was crucial. This was a make or break game. The players proved what they were worth. All season, or not all season, the past month or two, everyone was writing them off. We bottled it, it's finished, we go again next season. But they've proved it why we've been at the top of the table for the majority of the season. We've gone to Brentford away, won. Went to Brighton away, we won. We've gone to so many of these big teams and won. And for some reason, past couple of weeks, rival fans are calling our defense weak, calling our team like fragile, no cojones. I don't understand that. After 3-4 performances, every team is going to have a blip during the season. This team is young. This team is inexperienced. We had that blip, and then now we're going again. And I'm confident.
No, Dawood, but because you bottled it when it mattered. I'm sorry. You bottled it when it mattered. That's the problem. You see, you won against Newcastle.
No, what other team can win 14 games in a row?
Who expects us to beat Newcastle? You're just waffling.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Nobody expected you to win this game, but nobody expected you to drop points in 4 consecutive games. That is what drives people crazy, guys.
Especially when you're 2-0 up in 2 of those games.
Yes, I don't know why people keep like not want to talk about it.
When you become title challengers or champions, or you want to be champions, you cannot be throwing away 2-0 leads. Okay, Anfield, you can write that off as it's a one-off. You then don't go do the same thing in the following game against West Ham. And by the way, a struggling West Ham team, not a Newcastle-esque West Ham team. That's not acceptable. So if rivals want to criticize that, They have every right to say we bottled it because that is what it is. Otherwise, what is
Fair
it?
enough. You want to know something? Both of you guys are kind of right. The reality is somewhere in the middle where we shouldn't be saying, oh, the team is weak. We've always known this team is a false image. It's a false image. They were never this good. They were only second because City were trying to get themselves together. And then in the other breath, you're hearing valid points where it's like valid criticisms, but guess what? Some of those criticisms are overexerted and overused. They're like, oh, the team is weak, the team is this. I just feel like the reality is when you lose a game, there's many reasons why you lose. You can criticize those reasons, but don't go back and do reverse psychology, revise the whole season and say these players were always terrible.
Revision is the word.
I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Revisionism.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. And there does need to be more balance. And remember, don't take rival banter as being completely 100% how they think and feel, because it's always going to be overdone. It's always going to be overdone. Whatever they're saying. You ever seen American Pie 2 where they talk about how many bodies a man brags about having? You know what I mean? Not just divided by 3, and they say times a woman's by 3, right? I don't know if that counts. Oh, have we missed again? Sorry, I don't know how that counts in today's. But I feel like that about like when rivals say something about your club, however bad they make it out to be, generally divide it by 3 as an example. I want to talk about an incident in the game today, though, and then we're going to come to some of the super chats. Was this rightfully taken away? Was the decision to overturn this correct? Was this,
of course,
not a penalty? What are we talking about here?
Of course.
What are we talking about?
Of course.
Okay. So don't shoot the messenger. My job is to ask questions.
No.
Hang on, guys, because there are professional pundits and there are Newcastle fans, and of course, rivals of Tottenham saying it is a pen. I put out a tweet, and 50-60% of the responses say definitely not a penalty. But there are lots of people, including Alan Shearer, fuming, saying it is. So I wanted to ask my panel: do any of you think it is a penalty?
No. And the reason being, Terry, if you can go back and put up the video, it hits his thigh, and the trajectory of the ball changes to go up. The reason why it's not given is because it hit his thigh. If it didn't hit his thigh and the trajectory of the ball didn't change, he would have been given a penalty as it was given.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I have to go with that because the ball hit his thigh. He was trying to pull the arm away, so. Even then, if his hand was out, and it hits his thigh and goes hand, then maybe you could make a case of a penalty. But he's trying to move his hand, and his arm is leaning inwards. So I don't think, under the rules of law, I don't think that's a penalty.
I have one issue with it. It's not a penalty. Absolute correct decision, 110%. But you see how much time they spent looking at it and angle and slow-mo. Yeah. That's not a problem. You've got to do that for every penalty decision given. You know, like you'll see a penalty and it go, oh yeah, they haven't given it, and then they do a close up and slow it down, and you can see clear contact and it's a foul. That's my only issue again here. Where VAR has messed up isn't with the decision, it's with the process, because you've got to have that same energy every time now there's a close call for a penalty. Because if they just showed that replay in normal speed, no zoom in, it would have been a penalty. And that's my only issue with it. The right decision made. That's how much time should be taken over penalties that are close. They should have microscopic views on it.
It's why people hate refs at the moment. It's because you've got video replays. You've got the ability to, whatever angle you want to watch something in, you can watch it in. And they still make the wrong decision. That's why a lot of more people are now pissed off. If this was 10 years ago and this decision was given, less people would be pissed off about it because the refs don't have the ability to go and watch it again. I've said it. I don't mind if they want to take 2, 3, 4 minutes on a decision, but as long as they get it right. When they keep getting decisions wrong, with VAR being in place, is why they get a lot of hate.
But nobody wants to say it as it is, right? It all depends on how big the team is, right? Like,
well, I'll say it as it is. We should have been down in 9 men.
When Brighton played Spurs, he didn't spend that much checking calls. But because now it's Arsenal Newcastle, they wanted to make sure it's the right call. They don't check it when it's a small, like quote unquote.
You want to know something?
It's true.
You might be right, but the reality is, in these kind of games that decide things, the referee, their job is to just make sure they get the right calls. And sometimes referees' egos get in the way of them making the right calls.
But in every game, Egal, it should be in every game.
It is not because of the game. It's because of the referees are individuals and their subjective decisions that their ego doesn't allow them to change their
original decision. Is it also the clear and obvious rule? Because in some cases, like that might have not been given as a clear and obvious mistake.
But this could be Alan Shearer's point today. He went, well, it's only skimmed his thigh. You have to slow it down and zoom in to make sure. Therefore, it's not clear and obvious. That's the argument. Because and the reason I say that is because I don't agree with that. I'm playing devil's advocate.
I think
that's the problem when there's no clear definition on what clear and obvious looks like. Because if he hasn't seen it hit his leg, then 100% it's a clear and obvious error because it has. And that's why, for me, 100% right decision today, like we've already said. But we absolutely fundamentally need that level of of detail put into every decision. And you're right, Egal. There is too much arrogance that goes on. But VAR also protects referees. Granit Xhaka, towards the end, there was he pulled out the way and he slightly caught the player. How's that any different from the penalty Liverpool got the other day? The player pulled out and moved out the way. But it's about, if the referee gave that, they wouldn't have overturned it because they would have said there was contact. And we've seen this weekend 2 or 3 soft penalties not given, where last weekend 2 or 3 were. And I just think it's unfair overall on football. Oh my God! Sorry, we're playing really well. We just can't score it.
Anthony,
Terry, I think the way moving forward for the Premier League, it may be controversial. Maybe people don't like this, but I think AI, VAR, they use in
no. AI is
not
AI.
Bruv, you're too young. You ain't seen Terminator, bruv. You ain't seen Terminator.
AI scares me.
I'm going to do some super chats here. This one here says Arsenal should have had a minimum 4 points if Arteta managed 3 games before City better. Too trusting on non-performing players that went missing. I think most Gooners have called this out. I think it's been said, but this is for me. It all depends how you feel about your manager. I know Souls and Dowd, Sam here. I know Egal will go right. They'll condemn him for it, and they'll want to see improvements, but they'll forgive him. Some Arsenal fans, this is going to live on forever with them unless they win a title. So it really depends on your disposition. Jacob Kivior deserves a shout. He and Jorginho need to keep starting. Would you guys say that now, as Arsenal fans, keep starting them between now and the end of the season?
Think so.
Play players on merit. That's all I ask. They deserve it.
If it's Reece Nelson or
you know what, Terry, I'm just gonna give shout outs to some of these players because you know what, KVR, I don't think a lot of people were thinking he was ready. He's showing that he's ready right now. And Jorginho, a lot of people are saying Jorginho starting against that Newcastle midfield, and he had a man of the match performance. Definitely deserves praise. And Mikel Arteta, he should have made these calls earlier. I agree 100% with that super chat. And maybe these are the things that he has to learn from. And that's what Staffy was talking about earlier, Dawood, when he was saying things that we need to learn from. And you know what? I think as a fan base, we need to learn from this season and kind of be a little bit more level-headed because I know it's rich coming from me because I go crazy all the time. But the reality is, this title race has shown us anything. You have to have a level of calmness. You can't freak out after every drop point, after every poor performance. Sometimes, in a title race, you're going to see that. And the level of calmness I've seen from Man City fans, that's something that I hope that we can.
Do you know what it is though? I think it's calmness at the right times, but also knowing when to criticize people in your team. Does that make sense? Because sometimes I feel like I know my fan base can do this to certain players. I've hit the post now. Sorry. Like I know my fan base can do this to certain players where you just don't criticize enough and you kind of let them off the hook. It's about getting that balance right. David here says Jorginho is a beast in the Champions League. Maybe Arsenal winning the Champions League next season. Werner, J20 and Rudiger all in the Champions League next year. Where is Chelsea?
I just want a quarterfinal finish. Let me get to the quarterfinals first.
Yeah. After today, bro, we're lucky if we get third in our group or if we even in a Champions League group, bro.
Zizou here says spot on with Saka. He's been underwhelming since the international break. Needs to get dropped and have Trossard play. Do Gooners agree with that? And another poor performance from him? Does there need to be a change there?
If you're calling for Zinchenko, you have to call for Saka.
No, but there's no one out there to like. Trossard can't play on the right wing.
Yes, he can.
He's had one game they played on the right wing, but on a consecutive basis.
All right, play Jesus. Jesus, by the way,
he's done it for Brighton.
He's done it for Brighton for Man City.
Jesus was pretty good for Man City off the right.
It's too late, man. It's too late. And then Saka.
But then isn't it too late to drop Zinchenko? I don't understand why the energy.
No, that's why I said don't drop.
Too late to drop Holding.
You can't drop Zinchenko or Bukayo Saka.
Dawood, let me ask you a question. If you had the choice to play Saka every game for the remainder of the season and not give him one game off, you would do so? Because I personally think it's not. I agree. Bukayo Saka is one of our best players. He's been good this season. But the reality is we have 4, you could say, players that can rotate and play any of those positions. Jesus has played on the right before. Trossard has played up top. You both have Martinelli, who's played up top. I think it doesn't matter who plays.
Today? What did he do?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who plays. One second. In that front 3, it doesn't matter who plays. We can rotate and it will be very smooth. You can have a front 3 of Jesus, Martinelli, and Trossard. It doesn't matter who plays on the right. But for me, I agree with you to a certain degree because Bukayo Saka has been our best player, but he hasn't been performing like it week in, week out. So maybe give him a game off to rest because since the international break, we've been running him through the ground. He's been playing every single game. And you should be playing every game if you're a good enough player. But right now, when you're not performing, the manager needs to take you out the firing line like Son did with Son got taken out by what's his name, their manager. And you see the performances. Martinelli got taken out. You've seen the performances. They raise their levels when they're taken off because they have something to play for. If they play week in, week out, even when they're not playing well, they're going to be like, you know what? I can just kick it about. I don't care. But we need this guy to come out there and be like, I need a hat trick.
I know. There's 3 games left. There's literally 3 games left. Like, every game is a must win. If Bukayo Saka doesn't start against Brighton, we lose against Brighton. Everyone on social media have a meltdown. Why you don't play Saka?
He's not a defender though.
No, but I'm talking about if someone like Reece Nelson comes in and doesn't have a good game and we lose against Brighton, the title's done.
The thing is that this is where it becomes such an interesting debate for me because I looked at today's game. Saka wasn't great in terms of the attack, but you had other people that stepped up, scored goals, got you the win. When you have a defender that's making defensive mistakes, that can lose you games. So I do think there's a difference. If you've got a defender who's out of sync or a striker that isn't quite scoring, Saka can have a stinker and win you a game still because he scored in that Southampton game. Did he not? Did he score once or twice in that game?
It's
such a hard one, but you do have to pick players, generally speaking, on merit. But it is hard with match winners. We have another super chat here that says, I'm not going to lie, Egal. I was concerned for your team. My question is, what will happen if Arsenal are bottling the next 3 games?
You can't bottle when you're in second place.
Yeah.
We've done it already. We've already bottled it.
And that too.
If you drop points in the next 3 games, that would be terrible. But at the end of the day, the whole season has been a good season. It'll just be a disappointing end because we could have won the league.
Yeah, I hear you on that. This comment here is to Mo. It says Mo is right. Zinny is essential to how our play goes forward. We are able to keep teams in their own half much better. Do you think what you said, Mo, to make sure my memory is working, is almost it's more you've got to look at more the manager around, adjust your system to get the best out of it?
Yeah, because he's essential for them to the way they play football on the ground, keeping the ball, pushing teams back, pinning them back. Like the wingers, when they stay out, Saka and Martinelli, that's due to Zinchenko being in the middle next to Xhaka or Odegaard. And I think Tierney is not going to offer you this. If you play Tierney tomorrow, you're going to have to change your whole way of playing football because he's an overlapping fullback.
Yeah, I agree with it. I think you're spot on there. Sky King says Saka is Saka is his comfort blanket. He is afraid.
What does that mean? I'm sorry.
I think he means like Arteta. I'm assuming you mean Arteta's afraid to drop him. Is how I'm kind of.
Arteta, I think Saka as well. People don't realize that sometimes in football, when you're a winger, people are used to Saka scoring goals, assisting every game. But now, because he has so much pressure on him from the opposition, some managers just make their plan to stop him from playing his normal game. So that's why Odegaard, in the last game, he had 2 chances, scored 2 goals. Today, Odegaard has a couple of chances because Saka is pulling the team out, the opposition. And the manager is looking at Saka and think, I need this guy in this position and I need him to have 2 defenders on him. Other players will have spaces. People don't see that. People want Saka to score every single game, assist every single game. But sometimes you don't have to. You can be a good player by being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
If I could just say one thing about my side of things really, really quick. I hope Eddie Howe has learned that Wilson and Isak, it don't work in the same team. Maybe it was we've only had 1 game, and I was calling for it too, so shame on me. I'm not the sporting director though or the manager, so it's not my fault. But because today it didn't really work. For me, what's been happening with Eddie Howe lately is that, in the past few games, that Wilson sub has been crucial because then we move up to a different formation. Starting the game with certain players in certain positions is different when you're in a game and when you need to make a change. I don't think you can have Wilson and Isak starting, but in a scenario when you're trailing, we go 4-4-1-1 and Isak will, get in behind Wilson. So I think that is one thing, and I hope he does learn from it.
But you know what's mad about today's game? This isn't a dig at Arsenal. If you score that chance in the opening minute,
Murphy,
or that point blank header goes in.
Didn't we hit the crossbar too?
Yeah, you might have won the game, and then the starting line wouldn't. So I don't think you played badly. You just were up against the second best team in the league, one of the best teams in Europe. Like, if you're number 2 in England and competing with City, you're one of the best teams in Europe by default. Like, you weren't up against a shoddy team. So I get where you're coming from, but I don't think Newcastle fans have got too much to be upset. Again, you never.
I'm a terrible loser. That's why I'm in a bad mood.
I hear you, bro. I hear you. Slicing here, he's referring to the Arsenal fan defending Saka, not Arteta. Fair enough. That makes sense. Zinchenko starts. Then if Arsenal is leading by 1 or 2 goals, then Tierney comes on to nullify the opposition team, is what AMT says. Kofi here says exactly what Terry just said. Our problem was holding. We can interchange our attackers relatively to get the same results, but not our defense. Egal, shout out to Chelsea to give you Jorginho. Shout out
Chelsea. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Before the end of the show, I did want to ask as well about Odegaard again today, because I want to go to a rival's point of view on him, Mo, or a neutral. Where do you rank Odegaard in terms of attacking midfielders? I'm not talking Prem, I'm talking in Europe. Where do you rank him?
I had my notes, and I after the game, and I had one note. It's a question. It's that, would you rather have your 8 have 15 goals and 7 assists, or 16 assists and 7 goals? That's a comparison with Kevin De Bruyne this year. Both played kind of similar minutes. I know it's an awkward question, but I love KDB. KDB is absolutely a phenomenal, but the level that Odegaard is playing this year in this Arsenal team, I think he's absolutely majestic. The number of goals, I know why people are laughing, but I'm not going to burn it for people. But I think,
bro, I can't say why we're laughing.
Me too. I know why.
I've seen the De Gea goal. After dominating that mistake.
Rama.
Oh my word.
Ethan Rama.
There is gonna
Algeria's finest.
It's not
going to be a match reaction.
I'd be annoyed about it. If it was passing out the back, I'd go, we know he ain't good at it. But, shots like that, they should never, ever, ever be goals. And I don't it's crazy. It's not even, like, it's one of them ones where I'm looking at the man celebrating, I'm thinking to myself, in tennis, when they skip those lucky points, they apologize. That is just horrendous. We've dominated the game. West Ham have done nothing. I don't even consider that a chance. That's how bad a shot it is. Let me watch this again.
He scuffed it a little bit.
Which
added a little bit of.
I was shocked.
He slipped.
Oh no!
Good hand. I know you're gonna have a match reaction for this, Terry. But
yeah, we'll talk about it in a bit. Yeah, go on, carry on, bro.
No, but it is just about Odegaard. Like, people have to be happy. 24 years old, playing amazing, to be honest, stepping up when it matters, like the last game against Chelsea, and the technique and today's shot. And to be honest, people want to compare him to Kevin De Bruyne, and I can't compare both. All I can compare is the output, because they're completely different players. Kevin De Bruyne has a robot in front of him that he can assist all the time. Odegaard doesn't. He has 2 wingers and a forward that are playing false 9. But to be honest, Odegaard is the future of this Arsenal team in terms of going forward, and he's always in the right place, to be honest. And people want to say he's a small game player. Again, 2 games now, Chelsea and Newcastle, he proved everybody wrong. Everybody.
Chelsea big game.
It is still a big game.
In their state, in Chelsea's state.
It's a London derby, and Arsenal fans can tell you. Arsenal fans can tell you about it. I know you want to downplay it.
I do. I think that's the only thing left for Odegaard now. It's more big performances in the massive games, and they really do matter. Like, I've seen people this week talk about, like, where Harry Kane ranks, because he's now the 2nd highest goal scorer in England in Premier League history, and I'm like, but barring, I don't know how many he exactly got, but how many goals have been in title races and in the massive games in those title races? The answer is none. So you might have somebody with 80, 90, 100 less goals, but they've scored at pivotal moments. They're worth more. And you only realize that if you're a fan of a club whose legends have done that in those moments, because you just see it. But there we go.
Yeah,
this dude says, how does an American become a Newcastle fan? Genuine question.
Oh, okay. So real quick, Mom used to work at a bakery in Exeter, New Hampshire, where I'm at, right? So there are a bunch of people coming from the UK, actually, a lot of people. And obviously my friend, my mom made friends with this guy named Steve, who's from the area. I was a neutral watching Premier League football 2014 to 17. And he was like, what's your team? I'm like, I don't have one. He gave me a Newcastle shirt and was like, all right, you're suffering with me.
Mate,
So,
that is. But there we go. Tierney is in a flat back four defensively and getting up and down the pitch is what is really good. Dowd not giving him credit there.
Tierney's a bad boy left back.
No,
Bad boy left
no
back.
one said that. People said that Kieran Tierney is a traditional left back that can whip in crosses, do overlap.
Old school.
But that's
Old
not
school
what
left
Arsenal do. That's not what they do.
Would he fit Mo? Do you think Tierney would be a good option for Newcastle?
Definitely.
Would he fit the system?
Probably.
Because we need some attacking emphasis down the left.
Tierney will start for a lot of Premier League teams. It's just the style of play that we play, with the way with Man City, that they come in midfield. But the only two teams that really do that on a consistent basis. So
it's gonna be an interesting one. But Zinchenko's going nowhere. It's going to be about the system adapting. I want to thank the viewers all for tuning in today and having their say with us. We actually have another super chat that's come in here that says, how did Partey not get any stick when he was part of our downfall? I'm going to say this to you, bro.
We literally said to drop him.
I've seen enough gooners give him sticks. So
I swear people filter out things.
No, they don't watch the shows. They don't watch every show.
Or they and I'm not saying this is you to this African soldier, but some people don't watch every show, and sometimes you don't go in enough. Does that make sense? Like if I slag off De Gea for what he did earlier, crucify him, but don't say he's the worst goalkeeper in the history of football. Some people see that as me defending him. And it's crazy. But listen, everyone who's tuned in, I want to say a big thank you to all of you. My panel, you're amazing. I'm not looking forward to it now, but we're live after West Ham versus Manchester United. So make sure you're tuning in. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye.